How do you know when you should deliver information verbally or put it in writing? What kinds of things would make you maybe want to use an email, let's say, to document something? Why would you maybe want to put something in writing?
There's a lot of steps or information.
Lot of steps, right. So anytime you're giving people a list of instructions that are more significant or extensive, to expect them to remember. I know if my wife gives me a list of grocery items to go and buy or food items at the store, I can remember about 3 things in my mind. When she starts as I'm leaving to say, remember this and adds on 2 more, there's not much hope of me remembering, right? I have to have a list. So with something that has many steps, good idea to put it in writing. So for disciplinary reasons, or where somebody might want to refer back to a paper trail on something, absolutely yes. So complex information, paper trail, short factual information, it's good to use it in writing. Okay, so both if it's complex, we might want to list it and put it in writing, and short factual information is also good to put in writing. The interesting thing is that if we look at most everything else is better to do verbal. And the reason is that the words are only 7% of the communication typically. So if we just put it in an email or we put it in writing, we're missing a chance to actually get most of the message across by actually having a conversation. So the nice thing about verbal communications, the advantages are we can communicate facts and feelings directly, we can use words, tone and emphasis of our voice and our body language to hopefully get all that across. And we can immediately adjust the content. So the neat thing is in a verbal conversation is I can get a read on you when I'm focusing, and I can tell whether you're getting it or not. And that can help me whether I have to repeat it. Now remember when we looked at the 3 sort of the words, the tone, and the body language? What kinds of communication tools do we have at our disposal that we commonly use for each of those 3 things? So with the words, what's our most common communication tool where we only have the words? Emails, right? So email, strictly 7% words. So if email is only 7% effective, is it any wonder why when we get emails from people? I remember I hear people say, you know, so-and-so sent me an email. It was very angry. Well, how is the email angry? Right? Did they put the cap locks on or something? You know, the shift lock or something? The reality is that most of the time the emails that we receive are not written with tonality in them. I mean, the day is coming where we'll likely be able to send each other instant video messages or, you know, that sort of thing, and certainly that's starting to come on already. So the reality is email really, people interpret things into it. If you think about it, whenever you read a novel, you start envisioning the characters, you start putting faces to those characters, and then when the movie comes out, you kind of get disappointed sometimes. Well, that isn't who I envisioned in that role, because your imagination created a whole different character. So what we do is, when we don't have the other information, we just make it up. And you know how I would make up if I get emails from Bill? I think about Bill and my relationship. And if Bill and I have a bit of a difficult relationship, whenever Bill sends me an email, I think of Bill as being difficult. And I put the filter of the email through Bill being difficult, because that's how I know him. Right? So it's interesting if that was the case. Now, if we go down one tool, we say, okay, we have the tone and emphasis. Now we get into Bill, the phone, right? The phone is our thing, our voicemail. Okay, so the good news is, even though we hate voicemails and that sort of thing, at least the voicemail allows you to give a message that has tone and emphasis. So if you're writing a difficult email, or you've got something difficult to say, maybe you should pick up the phone, even if you have to leave a message and say, hey, I just sent you an email, just wanted you to know everything's cool, it's good, I just need you to know this stuff. That would, at least when the person reads the email, add a little context to it, right? And the final thing is the body language. The only way you get that, unless you have webcam, right? The only way you get that is to have face-to-face conversations. So, we want to use verbal communications because of that sort of one-to-one feedback that we get. There are some disadvantages. It is very easy to forget stuff. There's an article published that monkeys can only count to 3. And since we're descendants of the monkeys, we can only count to 3. All right? So that means that we can't hold, at least for men, maybe women are a bit better than this than we are, but since we're very simplistic, if you have to give people lots of information, they're not going to remember. There's no permanent record, of course, if we have a conversation. That's why you might want to follow up a conversation with an email, because it actually documents it.